Hey yo, it's your boy Monster Man Rocco.
It's your boy Swagger Rock.
This is Snack the Ripper.
And you have to go to don't know.
Masta Ace. You are not rocking with the best.
Breaking Records, man. Radio is like the place to be. I fuck strange music, man.
You are now tuned in to Breaking Records Radio. I got here with me another absolute legend from New York, from his collaborations with Masta Ace under the group EMC, to his historical run with Lyricist Lounge, and his latest work with Pearl Gates and Quincy Tones titled Champion Sounds, plus a new book that should be out probably about now by the time you're hearing this. Please welcome the very talented Wordsworth. What's up, my dude?
Hey, what's up? How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, of course. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me here today. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to this talk.
Me too.
All right. Before we kind of go into any of the new material, I wanted to start and talk a little bit about history and kind of go through your kind of upbringing, because you've been a part of some like major events in hip hop, from Lyricist Lounge and EMC. The list goes on. Punch and like the shit with Punchline as well. But how did you end up getting started in this, I guess, like hip hop culture? Not even necessarily rapping and being a part of it actively, but just from a fan's perspective, what brought you in?
When I was younger, I really was just emulating what I saw on TV, like Run DMC, LL Cool J, and my mom playing music in the house. I always was grooving to music in the house. And then I had an older cousin by the name of Elliot that would be rapping a lot and battling. He's about 4 years older than me. And my sister as well was into dancing, so she would be dancing in different dance groups and celebrating hip hop from that aspect. And then I had a stereo at home, and I would play the records, and that's what got me into it. I think really following my siblings and my relatives, and them kind of leading the path of what option I could choose. I could choose to dance. I didn't have anyone around me DJing at the time, so that's probably why I didn't choose a DJ path. I had somebody with dancing, so of course I knew how to pop and break dance. I had somebody that knew how to rap, so I followed the rapping aspect of it. And then as far as like the b-boying and graffiti aspect, the graffiti and the graph aspect of it, I really was into that a little bit too, but I didn't go anywhere bombing places or anything like that, more so just drawing personal pieces.
Man, that's fascinating. What about dancing? How did that kind of go? Like, when did you end up switching to more kind of focusing on rap?
Yeah, I think dancing was just a natural thing you would do when you're young, because any new hip-hop record that was out, I would dance to it. And back then it was more so popping was part of the culture. So breakdancing and popping is just part of the culture on the b-boy side. So it was just a natural option to choose, because people would have cardboard, or you would go to roller skating rinks and they would have dancing in the middle of the rink. And everywhere you went, it was kind of just a natural part of being part of hip-hop. So dancing was just a natural thing right there. And then later on, then I just was watching like my oldest cousin. He would be rapping, and then in elementary, I had about a few friends that were a little bit older than me, named Tino, and it was Tino and Scooby, and they were in like 6th grade rapping. They were a little bit older than me, 6th grade rapping, and I was battling them in the schoolyard in 5th grade. So we didn't know what we was talking about, though. It was just more like freestyle, and people go, oh, just because you make something rhyme, you know. And then I just kind of stayed in that lane of just trying to perfect how to rap and freestyle. And that's what got me into it, really just following friends and family doing it.
Now, I know you're educated and you teach as well, but was there a certain point, at least back then, that you thought that this is something that we can make a career out of, especially during those kind of early Lyricist Lounge days and hooking up with people like Mos Def and Punchline and whatnot? Was that ever a possibility? Was that something that you were striving for?
With just like, you mean like rapping forever, that type of vibe? Was that in my mindset?
Yeah, just rapping as a career move.
Yeah. I think everybody thinks they're gonna rap forever. When you're young, you start, because you don't really have many options So you choose an option when you're young. It's like, oh, I want to be a rapper when I grow up, so I plan on doing that and, accumulate whatever financial stability I'm going to get from it. Or I want to be an artist, I'm going to draw art and people will buy my paintings and they'll be across the world. Or I'm going to be an architect. Whatever you choose when you're kind of young, you kind of think it's going to have that sustainability for the long run. So you never really question that. It's not until you get kind of older, especially dealing with the music business, when you see it's such a roller coaster ride that doesn't necessarily have consistency, that makes you kind of consider other avenues. And then you start learning like, oh, okay, I can make clothing. Oh, okay, I could sell shirts and hats. Oh, okay, I could write a book and all these other avenues, which we probably wouldn't have thought of or thought about if we didn't have like a Naughty by Nature with their clothing line, or Wu-Tang doing a clothing line, and Puffy doing Sean Combs and Rockaway. Like, those things weren't a part of our mindset when we first started rapping and stuff like that. It wasn't even a part of our mindset.
So when did you end up getting into, I guess I would say like the whole Raucous kind of era and vibe and Lyricist Lounge and whatnot, but even the very early material that I'm aware of you from, so say the Tribe album or the Black Star album, both of those are with your partner Punchline, and I assume those stories go hand in hand, but when did that kind of, I guess, elevate to start working with Punchline and to start working with Raucous?
Yeah, well, it was my high school years, so it really started when I was in high school. I would say around 11th and 12th grade. I met a friend named Sono, and Sono, me and him had similar last names, so he wound up sitting behind me in gym. First day I met him. And the next day of gym, the teacher wasn't there, so we had a sub, and we were in a classroom, and then we started rapping, and that's how, through him, Punch was actually his best friend, one of his best friends. So I didn't even know Punch straight, me and myself. I met him through my boy Sono, and then I met Punch, and then they had a group already called the Incognitives, and in their group they had another kid named Flo that was doing beats. Then they had our boy Ern that was kind of figuring out the business side. So we kind of had like our own little crew back then. And I was the Brooklyn guy because Sono and Punch and all of them lived on the Lower East Side. So I would actually hang with them on the Lower East Side, but still go back home to Brooklyn. So I was going back and forth. And then that's how we pretty much got up and started doing music from that aspect. And that's how I met Punch. Once Sono decided to go to college, he went away to college in Atlanta. It was just me and Punch left by ourselves, and we were still dealing with track masters. So we went on Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito, and we rapped together there. And they were like, Bobbito is the one that said, y'all should be a group. And that's how that started.
That's fascinating. So when did Raucous become a thing?
Raucous, we were never signed to Raucous. I wasn't signed to Raucous. We were never signed to Raucous. We were just kind of like affiliated with all their artists in some shape, form, or fashion. So the people thought we were signed to Raucous, but we weren't. We were never signed to Raucous. I never put anything out with Raucous. It was just the fact that we rapped on the Black Star album, and a lot of those moments and opportunities came from being around at the open mic scene in New York, going to Wetlands, if you went to the Muse, or you went to SOB's, Joe's Pub, the New Eurekan Poets Cafe, we all were in kind of some of the same places, the Pyramid. There was like certain places that you would go throughout New York where if you went there, that's where everyone was kind of rapping at. So just being in those confines, when other artists got signed, like a Kweli and Mos were signed to Raucous and they did the Black Star album, it was like, hey, why don't you guys get on this? And then being in those same confines, when we did a Lyricist Lounge showcase, Q-Tip was hosting, and days later he ended up calling the lounge about us, and that's how we were able to get on the Love Movement album. And then within that same time frame or so on, Lyricist Lounge started working on that album, which was put out through Raucous again, and we rapped on that album. So just being in the confines and in the area and showcasing our skills in every platform, it just allowed us to be affiliated with a lot of Raucous items and projects.
Was there ever opportunities to sign with Raucous?
No, there was never opportunity to sign with Raucous that I recall. There was an opportunity to sign with Lyricist Lounge, had a deal, and I can't recall which was the distribution company they had, but they had offered me and Punch a deal, and the terms, we just couldn't come to terms on the agreement of what we wanted per se for that deal, so that deal never materialized. And then me and Punch didn't come out with a project until around 2000, and we did a EP called the Punch and Words EP.
Yeah.
But other than that, we just kept on rapping on everything and being on a lot of different features. We had a friend, Matt Fingers. He was putting out a whole bunch of different singles and vinyl, and that kept us afloat because he would pay us to be on the songs, and that also would allow our name to be out there more with the DJs and then build our reputation, and that allowed us to get shows and then so on and so forth.
I think the other large aspect of your career that people know you from, and at least personally what I would know you from, besides some of the early work that you had done on like Lyricist Lounge and whatnot, is EMC with Masta Ace. That's obviously a huge name, and it must have been an honor in order to actually put together any kind of album, even now, with Ace. But how did you end up meeting Masta Ace?
Yeah, it stays in that timeline of what I was leading up to with the Punch and Words EP coming out. We did that on a label called Mona Hip Hop, and on that label, Ace was actually working on a single for Strick. So, with that, amongst that moment, that's when Ace was working on Disposable Arts and was looking for some artists that may possibly be able to appear on it. And JF, the owner of Mona Hip Hop, played him Me and Punch EP, and Ace was like, "Yo, I like these guys." And then from then, he was like, "Man, I'm working on this project on this song called Block Episode. It'd be dope, I think, if you guys could try to come up with something for it. You be this character, and this guy's that character, so on and so forth." And that's how we continued from that project on to after Disposable Arts, of course, Long Hot Summer. And we were touring together so much that's when people were like, "Man, you guys should be a group, because we see you guys overseas so often. You all four of you on stage together, coming out doing the songs from Ace's albums. Man, you guys really are cohesive, so you guys should do a group." And that's how that occurred.
Now, the EMC material that you guys have put out has been fantastic on my end, and I love it, even the most recent stuff. Are you guys still working on material for EMC?
Thank you. We actually are looking into one producer right now, because we wanted to have one cohesive sound. So we found a producer that we like right now. I'm not going to expose the name because it's not like etched in stone, but we're trying to get one producer to do the entire project, and that's where we are right now. But we talk about the project here and there. But we talk every day because of, WhatsApp and our group chat. It's all of us. We talk every day, but we don't really talk about any EMC project, really. It's more so I may enter the chat and play something new that I'm doing solo-wise, or we're talking about other things that everybody's working on, or we're just talking about life stuff. Music is kind of almost the last thing that we talk about in the group chat. To be honest, it's one of those things that we bring it up here and there, but I think we realized, like, Ace dropping an album last year, me dropping an album last year with Gates, and then we realized, like, as long as we're continuously doing solo projects, it keeps the whole crew strong.
The producer that you're floating around, I know you said you can't name names, but would that be something as like a permanent fixture to the group itself, or just for one like new album?
It would be just for one album. It would just be for one album.
Gotcha. I want to talk about some of the more recent stuff that you're doing as well. You mentioned earlier that you have a book coming out. Can you elaborate a little bit on the book?
Yeah, well, I was working on an autobiography but I kind of put that to the side because it's like it needs a lot more information in it, and it's just taking me a lot of time if I'm talking about things in my life and family and things like that. So during this pandemic, I was just like, man, you know, I got all this time here. I always want to write a book. What would be something I could kind of approach right now and get it done within this short time frame in a way? And I've always felt that albums and lyrics were already poetry. So I already was like, man, you know, if I look at my albums, I already have several poetry books ready. So I was like, well, my album New Beginning, it's 12 songs and one of my favorite albums, and I was just thinking like, you know what? Let me do the New Beginning as kind of like the wind up to doing each album, and let me accomplish this one. It's 12 songs, and let me see how I can do this. So it's really based on me giving you the behind the scenes and my thought and my reasoning to writing the bars on that album. So, you know, I have Ace, you know, Masta Ace wrote the foreword in it, and it's really similar to how he described it. It's listening to the rhymes with the director's commentary on it. So that's kind of like,
I've contemplated on, well, there's various projects that kind of have a similar vibe to that, right? So there's that book on Nas's Illmatic that I'm a big fan of. I think there's one for 36 Chambers as well that I haven't read, but I think I've seen it before. But these are all written from not like an autobiographical perspective, right? It's not written by the author himself.
Right, exactly, and that was a big thing. I'm glad you said that, because I said that to a lot of other people too. I said, you know, this for me, this book is like if you were able to ask Bear what he meant, right? Things like that. So this is in that same vein, and I've said the same exact thing you said. I said there's been artists that have people that's written their perspective of what the artist wrote, but that doesn't mean that it's spot on. It's still going to have some type of clerical errors, or you know, it's going to be referenced wrong, or it's not 100% foolproof. With mine, it's me telling you what I wrote and why, but it still is going to always leave a space for questioning, like anything does. So I'm glad that I can like elaborate on the lyric and give you my reasoning on why I feel the lyric is potent. I don't get into techniques of writing and get into talking about like the bar count and slant rhyme and things like that. This is more just straight the reason why I said these bars, because I wanted to provide my narrative voice as opposed to people that may hear me from just rhyming 16 bars.
I love that, and I love that you're planning on doing this as a series with the other albums as well. I'm obviously, as a rap fan, I think most people at this point use things like Rap Genius, and being able to go through and look up lyrics and see that little verified bar and that verified icon, and be able to know that the artist himself had kind of expanded, elaborated on what a lyric meant is always interesting. I'm always interested to be able to listen and kind of learn that knowledge. To be able to hear a whole book dedicated to breaking down one album is fascinating. That's exactly what I would want to read, and I think other hip hop fans would be in the same boat.
Yeah, thank you. I just felt like this is that time that I can do something as far as writing a book, and I always felt like, to add on to some of the accolades that I have, is that I always wanted to be an author, and I thought it's always something about when you're sitting at those open mics and somebody steps on stage with a book and they're saying, this is a poem from such and such and it's called this, and they read it from that book.
Yeah.
You know, I always think there's some type of power in that, and just I wanted to have author within my other accomplishments, and I felt it was more important to have author. I think there's longevity in the word author that I think even outlasts the rapper title.
I hear you.
And you get what I'm saying?
100%. I hear you. I've done various endeavors throughout my career as well, and I'm only young, but I've always wanted to write a book as well. And I've wrote a couple little fiction things, but definitely not for publication or any kind of mass production or anything of that sort. But recently, over the last couple years, I've been working on a book on the development of hip hop in Canada, and that was really a large kind of a reason why I went down that road as well. I had an interest and a fascination in the culture here, and I wanted to learn about it. But really, there was kind of that selfish kind of note of I want to be an author, and I want a book under my name that's on my shelf, and I think that would feel good. I think I get it. I agree. I think there's power in that statement that you are an author.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've been backstage and people introduce me, and it's amazing to hear what people can say about me sometimes, because I'm not listening from a perspective of me being from a conceited or arrogant level when I'm backstage. It gets me very emotional because sometimes I don't take the time to reflect on the journey. So to hear author added to that while I'm backstage it just would probably add on to that emotion of accomplishments in the journey. You know, and it's just another thing that I can say I've done. And it's an example for family and kids and things like that, because I think the more examples you're able to leave for your family or friends, they're able to say, okay, let me go do it. Like me and you talking now, you know, maybe you'll feel more like, you know what, let me go finish this. Or even with this discussion here, I've even called almost all my friend rappers, I don't say all, but most of them that I've spoken to recently, I've been championing them. Hey, you should write a book. You should do a book. And I don't mind going through the process of figuring out how to get it together, you know, and I offer that same opportunity to you. If you just got these ideas and you trying to figure out how to organize your thoughts, which is kind of the gift and the curse of being an artist and being a writer, being able to do things, whether you're painting, whether you're an architect, or whether you're construction, postal worker, whatever, that your mind has to be able to figure out how to organize things. And sometimes we're such scatterbrains because we're looking to do so much, you know?
Yeah, and I think the task often seems daunting at first before you really dive into it, and it is a large task for sure. And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and depending on the book that you're writing, it's going to end up being at least a 6-month project, if not way longer than that. And that it does take on obviously a lot of responsibility as well, but I think it's rewarding, and I don't think it's as hard as people make it out to be. You take it one step at a time, you break it down into increments, you work on one chapter, right? Work on one page, and I think over time it can be a pretty therapeutic experience just actually writing this thing. And it's, regardless of any kind of book sales or anything, I think there's a reward and achievement in just getting those pages down and knowing that you're actually able to do this, and seeing a page written and then seeing a chapter written. Those are rewarding feelings.
Yeah, I think when you tell somebody to write a book, right, it's like saying you know how to ride a bike, or you know how our mind works in pictures. So when you say something like, hey, you know, what do you want to eat, or food, or whatever you think of, it kind of flicks a picture in your mind. I think that word book makes you think of a novel. Like, yeah, you think, oh, I don't know that's a lot of pages. And it's like, nah, it's not. You know, you can't say it's a lot of pages yet until you write it. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with this whole book process, and me kind of understanding it. And it's so crazy, man. My daughter, she had to do an assignment based on writing, and it was the Lamont way, which is you just write and write and write, first, second, and final draft, and then the Dilla way or Dilla way. And you can either edit while you write as you go. And I'm more the Lamont way. I like to just write, and I'm not worried about nothing messed up. I'll write and write and write, and then I come back, you know?
Yeah, I'm the same way myself, and I think that's needed for at least your first couple books, just to be able to actually get something done. Because I feel like once you end up getting it done, then you're able to go back and you're able to take your time and edit it. But if you're taking your time and editing as you go, I think you can get kind of not heartbroken isn't the word, but just disappointed in the level of pace that you're going, and you can give up, right? And you don't want to give up. You want to do anything you possibly can in order to not give up. And then once you end up finishing that draft, well, then you're good. You've written something. And I would even argue it's probably good in order to write something else after that. And then after you're done that, go back and edit the first thing, because you're always going to be improving. And that first piece of text that you end up writing, I don't think is going to be... It's not going to be to the best of your abilities.
Never.
Yeah, take time with it and just get something done. And then write more, and keep writing.
My motto, telling my friends, is finish and then fix.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. Don't worry about grammatical errors. Don't worry about syntax. Nothing. Just go, and then we come back. So that's kind of how I've approached it.
And I've never heard the terminology that you use there in order of the different methods, but it definitely makes sense. But there is, in terms of, I think you said it was the Lamont way, is what you're currently practicing?
I think it's Lamont. It's crazy because this was part of her homework, and then I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this is so crazy because I'm up here looking it up, but I was just like thinking about it, and yes, Lamont, Lamott.
Gotcha.
And the Dilla is Dila. So I don't know if it's Dilla, but the other person is George Dilla. There you go, right there, George Dila. So those are the two approaches, and it was funny to read her homework and help her with that and see it in the two approaches. And I was like, wow, I just kind of actually did this writing my whole book without even knowing these approaches. Just kind of because I write rhymes, and writing songs for me is the same approach. I just write and kind of go, and then I put it together and piece it together. So if I wasn't, it's the same method for me doing a book.
I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the, I guess you call it a movement at this point, but once a year in November there's the National Novel Writing Month, or NaNoWriMo, is what they call it, and that's what first ended up getting me into writing a long time ago anyway. And its whole motto is, in order to be considered a novel, and it's usually geared towards novelists and not necessarily nonfiction writers, but in order to be considered a novel, you have to write 50,000 words. Before that, it's considered a novella. And they break it down nice and easy. They have a nice app on their website for 1667 words a day, and you try to get a novel done in 30 days. And the whole idea is exactly that Lamont method in terms of you're just writing, right? If you get roadblock or like writer's block in any step of the way, it doesn't matter. Your characters can get abducted by aliens. It doesn't matter. Just write. Just keep writing.
Right.
Just do something in order to get those pages done. You can go back afterwards and you can change things, but it's not even so much. The book is not meant to come out in that sense. You could, if it's a good piece of writing, you can edit it in December if you really want to. But in a lot of ways, it's made as a confidence booster. Get something done. Know that you're able to write a book, and then now you're able to take your time and write something much more substantial if you want to. But just that achievement, knowing that you can do it, will make writing infinitely easier going forward. That's a whole movement. There's like hundreds of thousands of novels that are written every November as part of this movement all across the world. And there's like Camp NaNoWriMo as well for kids. But I think that's a wonderful experience, and I really wish that would be taught more in school. Just get kids to write something of substance, because I think it builds confidence more than anything.
Yeah, and that's one of the difficulties going on with kids being able with technology. Technology, it kind of eliminates the fact that you have to spell properly or have to, have a long extended thought, right? Yeah. Because it's even with that, I'm like BRB, be right back. So how extensive is that? Everything's so acronyms. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's dealing with acronyms. So of course, being that it's dealing with acronyms, most people are not trying to write nothing that deals with a full conversation. Conversations are kind of short right now, you know?
100%. So when is this book coming out? Do we have a title or anything for it?
Yeah, it's called What Words Are Worth, Volume 1. And Volume 1 is What Words Are Worth, Volume 1, New Beginning. I actually uploaded it yesterday. It's coming out through Amazon, and I uploaded it yesterday, so it has a barcode and everything. So it's, you know, the artwork is done, the cover is done, and everything, you know. So I'm just like, what I want to do is a simultaneous release. So I didn't want to drop the book and not have the audio book ready. So that's why I'm in here in my house, just like, I've been recording it since yesterday, and I'm up to, if I'm right, I think track 7. So I'm going to record that, and then I got to go back and listen to each one and figure out, all right, like I said that, I don't like I said that, and I could re-say that better and stuff like that. So I'm assuming I'll have it done within this week, and then I'll be listening to it, and then Ace is doing the forward. He's going to read his part, so I'll have that in there. And then I kind of want to gather a couple other things for it, but I want to do it a simultaneous release. The PDF of it and everything, the actual book, I could release within days if I really wanted to. But I said, let me see if I can get this audio book done and do it all within the same time frame.
That's amazing. I'm really excited to be able to add that to the shelf.
Thank you.
I love that type of shit, right? And that's that's going to be a good read for sure.
Thanks.
What about music? What are you currently working on music-wise?
Right now, working on the album with me and Superstition. We have an entire album that we're working on. We got a nice amount of songs done. I think we got about 8 or 9 songs done already. And that's turning out to be pretty incredible. You know, it's just nice to be doing an album with someone that I'm a fan of, you know. And so it's nice to hear him doing his thing, and then when I get the track, it pushes my pen. That's what was so great about doing the album with Gates as well. Is like, you know, Gates is the next generation of doing the music, but then also he has the history of what's been out back in the days, and then him being able to write. So just I'm enjoying doing albums along as far as when I do these projects is with people that I'm excited to hear their verse as well as mine. And so that's one of the next projects. And then I also have another project that has a couple of songs done with Kels with the Heat. He's done a couple of beats for it. And then I have some stuff done with Hezekiah and my other boy, Herb Ford. And then the other thing I'm working on right now is I wrote a musical. So I'm looking to get some more tracks for the musical, looking for some more tracks that's with no samples in it. It's about 14 scenes in the musical. I have about, I would say, 7 to 8. I would say close to halfway done as far as the music for it. And I actually have it in my phone, half of the musical with the lyrics and the vocals on the tracks and everything. So I'm excited about that. Right now, if you can see the movie St. Judy, I have music in that. That movie is out right now on cable. And also the last season of Power. Me and Gates have music in the last season of Power, episode 2. So it's really about getting music and movie placements. So in music movie placements and TV placements, I've been aiming at that a lot as well. So I'm just bouncing around with all these different ideas.
That's amazing. I had no idea about the musical and even your interest in doing so. Have you tried acting or anything of that sort, or is this just going to be like composing and working on the music for the musical? And can you kind of elaborate a little bit more detail on this musical?
I don't want to give the idea out yet.
Sure.
But it's autobiographical. and the acting aspect of it is more so would be I may be in it, and then I may have somebody playing me, depending on the situation. But like as far as my acting background, would just come from years ago doing the Lyricist Lounge. But then also being on stage as a performer, just being able to show my passion towards when I perform my music, it allows me to stay in shape as far as making sure that I can represent the music from that regard of I'm not on stage standing stiff. I'm not doing that. So I just want to make sure whatever I do, it has some charisma to bring people into it and hold their attention. I got a song out with a Canadian native Danny O right now called Born to Be. So that song is out.
From Toronto, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So there's a song out right now called Born to Be, and it's featuring me and Gates on it. So that's off of Danny O's album right now. And that one is more about the political climate of what's going on. And so I'm just doing a whole bunch of different things in that regard, and then preparing to get geared up for how school is going to look, trying to figure that out. Nobody really has an idea of how that's going to look just yet. And that's really it, man. Using this time. I'm using this time because you don't get this type of time too often.
Yeah, no doubt. This quarantine, I know it's affected different people differently, and that makes sense. Different people have different issues and whatnot going on in their lives, but wow, has it ever opened up a period of time to be productive if you really want to be. Like, holy shit, I've been super productive, and it feels great. I procrastinate about everything, and it takes me a while in order to finish a project. This quarantine has got me locked in, and that's a blessing.
Yeah, it's going to change the whole way the world works. Like, people are going to realize, like, they don't need to rent out an entire building and lease the building for thousands of dollars. They can have people work from home and still be productive and maybe raise the people at home pay. You're going to have a lot more people are starting TV shows through Instagram, a lot more people are getting their podcasts together. It's going to be so many things invented throughout. This is like a renaissance in a way. Like, it's going to be people that invented things during the pandemic, wrote movies, scripts, and with everything else going on with the social climate, it'll be a lot more, black authors and movies and things like that. So it's just a time of a lot of discovery. And
I really hope it gives people some sort of financial independence and just being able to spend this time in order to work on side hustles and kind of figure out a way that you don't have to end up being kind of enslaved by your employer kind of thing. And I think a lot of people are already doing that in terms of, as you said, podcasts and, inventing things, getting patents on things. Like, these are profitable businesses that people have at their disposal. And I think people are starting to realize that and take advantage of those things in a way that we just didn't see 6 months ago.
Yeah, you're going to have so many people on TV or online or wherever that we have platforms say, well, during the pandemic, I lost my job, so I decided to do this. During the pandemic, this and this and that, so I decided to do this. During the pandemic, there's going to be so many stories that begin with during the pandemic.
100%. All right, man, we are out of time on my end here for the radio show itself. But again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to speak to me here. I appreciate it. I'd love to have you back on in the future. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and all the material that you ever come out with is always dope. I'm really looking forward to checking out that book. As soon as it becomes available for pre-order, I will do so. And again, thank you.
All right, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, you have yourself a wonderful night.
All right, you too.
Peace.
Peace.